If you are studying Portuguese and open a grammar book, you'll see that a Portuguese verb can appear in a simple tense or in a compound tense.
And what does that mean, Pia?
Simply put, a verb construction that has only one verb is a simple tense. Now, on the other hand, a compound tense is made up of an auxiliary verb combined with another verb form. Important, if you have just started learning Portuguese, I suggest you focus on learning the simple tenses first. Links to those lessons are in the box below, and then watch this video later. Now, if you're not a beginner anymore, I invite you to join me because in today's lesson, you will learn the compound tenses in the indicative mode, and in the upcoming lessons, the compound tenses in the subjunctive mode. Olá pessoal, I'd like you to meet the compound tenses of the indicative mood we'll study today. Pretérito perfeito composto, pretérito mais que perfeito composto, futuro do presente composto, futuro do pretérito composto. There's no need to memorize all this terminology, but I know that some of you are curious about it. It's more important though that you know how to use the tenses we'll study today. Let's begin with pretérito perfeito composto. This tense is formed by combining the present tense of ter, to have, with the past participle form of a verb. The past participle form of a verb is that one that ends in ado, ido, such as estudar, estudado, ler, lido, assistir, assistido. Don't forget that some verbs have irregular past participle forms, such as fazer, feito, abrir, aberto, ver, visto, just to name a few. By the way, below are the links to all lessons that are relevant to today's subject. Now let's see how to use the pretérito perfeito composto. So, if I want to say in Portuguese, I have been studying Portuguese every day, I'll use the pretérito perfeito composto. Eu tenho estudado português todos os dias. Eu tenho estudado português todos os dias. Note that the meaning of the pretérito perfeito composto in Portuguese is not equivalent to the present perfect in English. It's equivalent to the present perfect continuous in English. Have been doing. So if you think of a construction using that, I have been doing, I have been, yeah? You must use the pretérito perfeito composto em português. So, I have been studying Portuguese every day. Eu tenho estudado português todos os dias. Other examples. Lately, he's been reading many articles in Portuguese. Yeah, so, lately he's been reading. Em português, ultimamente, ele tem lido muitos artigos em português. Ultimamente, ele tem lido muitos artigos em português. Oh, they have been watching plain Portuguese videos for 5 months. They have been watching. Em português, eles têm assistido aos vídeos do Plain Português há 5 meses. Eles têm assistido aos vídeos do Plain Português há 5 meses. And you, what have you been doing? O que você tem feito? O que você tem feito? Tell me in the comments below, huh? Oh, and how long have been learning Portuguese? Há quanto tempo você tem aprendido português? Há quanto tempo você tem aprendido português? Pretérito mais que perfeito composto. This tense is formed by combining the imperfect tense of ter, eu tinha, você tinha, nós tínhamos, eles tinham, with the past participle form of a verb. But if you like reading the classics or listening to more formal Portuguese, you'll notice that the verb haver may be used as an auxiliary verb in this compound tense. And this is how haver is conjugated in the imperfect tense em português. Eu havia, você, ele, ela havia, nós havíamos, vocês, eles, elas haviam. But as I said, it's mostly found in literary texts. Well, the pretérito mais que perfeito composto is equivalent to the past perfect in English. Yeah? Used to say what you had done, what you had done. Examples. Oh, I had already studied this subject. Eu já tinha estudado este assunto. Eu já tinha estudado este assunto. I had never studied this subject before. Eu nunca tinha estudado este assunto antes. Eu nunca tinha estudado este assunto antes. He had never read articles in a foreign language. Ele nunca tinha lido artigos em uma língua estrangeira. Ele nunca tinha lido artigos em uma língua estrangeira. They had watched that class 3 times before answering the quiz. Eles tinham assistido aquela aula 3 vezes antes de responderem o quiz. Eles tinham assistido aquela aula 3 vezes antes de responderem o quiz. Futuro do presente composto. This tense is formed by combining the future tense of ter, eu terei, você, ele, ela terá, nós teremos, vocês, eles, elas terão, with the past participle form of a verb. This tense is equivalent to will have done something in English. So, examples. By this time tomorrow, I'll have studied everything I need for the test. A esta hora amanhã, eu terei estudado tudo o que preciso para o teste. A esta hora amanhã, eu terei estudado tudo o que preciso para o teste. By the end of the year, he'll have read more than 10 books in Portuguese. Até o final do ano, ele terá lido mais de 10 livros em português. Até o final do ano, ele terá lido mais de 10 livros em português. Oh, they have been binge-watching plain Portuguese lessons. If they keep doing that, they will have watched all the lessons by the end of the month. Eles estão maratonando. Eles estão maratonando as aulas do plain português. Se continuarem fazendo isso, eles terão assistido a todas as aulas até o fim do mês. Se continuarem fazendo isso, eles terão assistido a todas as aulas até o fim do mês. By the way, in colloquial conversations, instead of using ter conjugated in the future tense, you may hear Brazilians using eu vou ter, você, ele, ela vai ter, nós vamos ter, vocês, eles, elas vão ter. So, for example, a esta hora amanhã, eu vou ter estudado tudo o que preciso para o teste. Até o fim do ano, ele vai ter lido mais de 10 livros em português. Se continuarem fazendo isso, eles vão ter assistido a todas as aulas até o fim do mês. Futuro do pretérito composto. This tense is formed by combining the conditional of ter, eu teria, você, ele, ela teria, nós teríamos, vocês, eles, elas teriam, with the past participle form of a verb. Well, this tense indicates an action that could have happened, but is conditioned to another past action. It's used to say what you would have done if. Yeah, eu teria feito, I would have done. I would say that this compound tense is quite elaborate to use because it's often used in combination with another compound verb tense. Yeah? Check it out. I didn't study enough. I didn't pass the exam. Oh. If I had studied more, I would have passed the exam. So this I would have passed is the tense we are studying now. The if I had studied more is something we are going to study in upcoming lessons, yeah? But it's worth mentioning now. So, if I had studied more, I would have passed the exam. Em português, se eu tivesse estudado mais, eu teria passado no teste. Se eu tivesse estudado mais, eu teria passado no teste. He visited Brazil 10 years ago, and that's why he started learning Portuguese. If he hadn't visited Brazil 10 years ago, he wouldn't have started learning Portuguese. Oh. Se ele não tivesse visitado o Brasil há 10 anos, ele não teria começado a estudar português. Se ele não tivesse visitado o Brasil há 10 anos, ele não teria começado a estudar português. They studied at the same school. They met and fell in love. But if they hadn't studied at the same school, they wouldn't have met and they wouldn't have fallen in love. Se eles não tivessem estudado na mesma escola, eles não teriam se conhecido e não teriam se apaixonado. Se eles não tivessem estudado na mesma escola, eles não teriam se conhecido e não teriam se apaixonado. Recapping. These are the compound tenses you learned today, the compound verb tenses of the indicative mood. Eu tenho estudado, I have been studying. Eu tinha estudado, I had studied, or in more literary texts. Eu havia estudado. Eu terei estudado, I will have studied, or more colloquially, eu vou ter estudado. And finally, eu teria estudado, I would have studied. So, eu tenho estudado, eu tinha estudado, eu havia estudado, eu terei estudado, eu vou ter estudado, eu teria estudado. In the pinned comment, you'll find a few questions using the tenses you learned today. Answer them so I can give you feedback, yeah? And if you like the content provided and want to show your appreciation, I invite you to become a member of Plain Portuguese Club. That will mean a lot to me. Thank you for watching another lesson. See you next time. Até a próxima. Tchau!